Hello again, football fans, and welcome to a very, very special edition of Miners Live. Let's call it CS Game Day, if you will, College Series Game Day on a Saturday morning. No longer on the traditional Wednesday night. Saturday morning, College Series Game Day. We are here. We are ready to go. The games will kick off 1 o'clock this afternoon. 1 o'clock this afternoon, we will have a full slate of games, and then there will be some 4 o'clock games followed by the broadcast live evening games. College Series Game Day, special edition of Miners Live. I am your host, Chris Dunn. Thank you and welcome in, everyone. I see some guys rolling in the chat. Ronnie Shanahan there, Killian Bain, Miles McCain, Anthony Fry. What's going on, everybody? Good to have you with me here on this bright and early Saturday morning. 11 a.m. on the East Coast. For those of you that are in a different time zone, it's even earlier for you, possibly. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. Grab yourself an egg and cheese sandwich. Just get ready to go. So a couple things we're going to go over this morning. One, probably most importantly, give you guys an idea of what the show will look like today, what the show will consist of. A couple things I want to go over. One of them being the brand new coaches poll. So for those of you that have no idea what that is, we will have, I will have every week the coaches poll basically brought to you by Miners Live. So what I've done is I have pooled together a group of coaches, and we have got together and provided our top 10 rankings. So this has nothing to do with the official College Series Top 25. This has nothing to do with anything other than what each individual coach that is part of the coaches poll feels are the 10 best teams in the College Series, ranked in order. Doesn't have to be who has the best record. It's simply who you feel is the best team, the second best team, third best team, and so on in the College Series. Again, I cannot stress this enough. This does not have to be, well, this team is 3-0, and by the College Series top 25, the official top 25, if you are an undefeated team, regardless, you're going to be at the top. That's not always going to be the case here in the coaches poll. For example, if a team like Auburn had started 2-0, they would be in the top 10 of the Rfl top 25, the College Series top 25. That's not going to happen in the coaches poll. I don't believe that any of the coaches involved in the coaches poll, any of the guys that I have, compiled to help me put this list together, I don't think any of those guys would have said Auburn was the number 7, 8, or 9 team in the country, regardless of whether or not they started 2-0 or 3-0. Okay, so in the official College Series top 25, yes, it is all going to go based on record. However, the coaches poll will not. The coaches poll will more closely resemble what we, the coaches, feel are the top 10 teams in the country. I'm also going to get into the top 5 Rfl Draft Prospects. So there's a couple positions that I will go over. The quarterback position and the running back position. I will unveil the top 5 RFL Draft Prospects at those positions. Now, again, this is not simply based on stats for how they're performing this season. This is not based on really anything to do with the College Series. This is who coaches, again, the same group of coaches that came together to help me with the coaches poll are the same coaches that are taking part in these rankings as well. Now, these rankings are anonymous. I don't know which coach has which ranking. I went out of my way to make sure that when they provided their responses, they did not tell me when the responses were being provided. So that way I have no idea what the order is. Yes, I created the form for every single coach to go in and rank who they feel are the top 5 quarterbacks, who they feel are the top 5 running backs. Now, for those of you coaches that are listening, I already talked to you individually and in our group chat, but when those responses get input, they get sent back to me on the form, and I can see how many responses there have been. I don't want to know when anyone has put in responses, because if I know that so-and-so just put a response in and then I happen to go look and there's only 2 responses and the first response was my own, well, then I know who the second person's response is, and now I can see what their rankings are, and I don't want that. This is meant to be 100% unanimous. I will tell you guys, there are 8 coaches that are involved in this coaches poll and in these ranks. And as of right now, I believe the coaches poll, all 8 coaches were involved. So every single one of the 8 coaches involved in the coaches poll put together their top 10 rankings and responded in such. The top 5 running backs and the top 5 quarterbacks, there was 7 coaches in total that participated. I believe there was one coach. I don't know if it was the same coach or if it was a different one for each ranking that did not get the rankings in time for me to have them as part of the show. So again, throughout today's show, we will have the coaches poll unveiled. I will bring on a special guest to go over that coaches poll with me. So that will be the top 10 as voted on by the coaches, top 5 RFL draft quarterback prospects, top 5 RFL draft running back prospects. Who are the top 5 prospects for the RFL? Again, I cannot stress enough. It does not matter what your college series stats are. If the coaches feel that you are not going to be a good RFL draft prospect, you might not make the list. So what I don't want to see in the comments is a bunch of whining crybabies who have thrown for 5 touchdowns or have run for 5 touchdowns but did not make the top 5. I don't understand why I'm not in the top 5. I'm leading the league in rushing touchdowns. It doesn't matter. We don't care. It has nothing to do with what your stats are and everything to do with how we feel your game is going to translate at the next level. Again, guys, RFL coaches, we don't care about the college series. The only thing we care about the college series is the draft. 85% of the reason why RFL coaches watch the college series is because we are scouting players for the draft. The other 15%, okay, we're watching it for fun. We're watching it because we like it. You guys enjoy the college series because you're in it. We enjoy the college series simply because we are evaluating players for the RFL. And that's why myself and every other coach that you hear, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's in a chat, whether it's in Discord, whatever it might be, you always hear coaches say the RFL is way more important than the college series. We don't care about the college series. Now, yes, we care, again, because we are scouting players for the draft. Other than that, doesn't really impact. And I would even go so far as to say, you probably noticed that there are 4 or 5 or maybe 6 RFL coaches that aren't even really that active during the college series. They're not at the games, chatting up a storm with you guys in the chat room during the games. Because at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. We want you to play well at the RFL level. The college series is fun. You guys all get your own team chats and you all get together and you hype it up on game day. And an hour and a half, 2 hours from now, you're all going to be in a chat together and you're all going to be glamoring for your team for an hour and a half on a Saturday afternoon. And that's fun. It's not nearly as fun as draft day. It's not nearly as fun as making your first RFL start. It's not nearly as fun as throwing your first RFL touchdown as a starting quarterback, breaking one for 45 yards against the Portland Snowhawks. The RFL is so much more important, so much more fun, so much more enjoyable for us. Now, I'm not going to say for you guys love the college series. And when you've got 24 guys on a roster, I get it. But again, that's all the more reason why I preach all the time 20 to 24 guys, 15, 16, 18 guys on one roster is just not enjoyable. It's not fun. It doesn't provide a lot of parity. Ask any coach, ask Mitchie, ask Bill, ask Mix, ask Back, ask any RFL coach, ask Baker. He's in the chat right now. Coach Baker right now is here. Head coach of the Houston Voyager, Coach Baker is in the chat right now. Ask him. He'll tell you. Parity is better in the college series. It would be a lot better if we could watch Auburn. It would be a lot better if watching the Auburn game meant something. It would be a lot better if watching the Baylor versus Oklahoma State game today meant something. The Baylor-Oklahoma State game isn't nearly going to have the amount of eyes on it that it might normally in terms of scouts and RFL coaches because they're playing Oklahoma State. Nothing that Baylor does against Oklahoma State is going to do anything to impress me. If they don't beat Oklahoma State by 15 or more, the only takeaway that I could possibly have from that game is that of the negative variety. There's almost no positive takeaway for me to have from Baylor blowing the doors off of Oklahoma State. Coach Baker does say he's a Texas Longhorns fan. So, all right. Again, I will double down. Don't you think Coach Baker would love to watch a Texas Longhorns team that had, I guess the Longhorns did actually get quite a bit. They're not as active as others, but actually, if I go and I look back, they added a lot this year. What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 submitted players at Texas this year, 1 generic. But I believe last year Texas had like 2. I'm pretty sure. One of them is a transfer. Tip Soto is a transfer. As a matter of fact, every other user submitted player on the Texas Longhorns roster, I believe, is new this year, was not part of College Series 3. So the only reason Texas even has user submitted players is because we came back for a second year. Because chances are, if College Series 3 prospects were drafted last year, then the players that ended up going to Texas probably would have gone to another school. The reason they went to Texas was because they were a wide receiver or a tight end or a running back or a quarterback that wanted to go to another school but couldn't go to that school because that school already had those positions. So we're getting a little bit more parity this year, which is nice. But the reason that we're getting that parity is simply because we've got 2 college series classes bumped together in one, which is great for this year, but we're not going to get that ever again. I say ever again, but that remains to be seen. I guess crazier things have happened and something might happen in the future. And maybe for some reason we end up with dual draft classes. I don't know how, and I don't know why that would be the case. I know Commissioner Smitty is going to go out of his way to make sure that's not the case. He doesn't want that. He went and between him and the front office and sat down and said, you know what, the way that we have the RFL draft, the way that we have the end of the college series, the draft, the beginning of the RFL season, the way that we have it set up right now just isn't working. It's broken. It doesn't make a lot of sense. When I first joined the league, one of the first things that I thought was, why is it like this? Why are we having the college series and then the draft and then the RFL season, but that RFL season doesn't contain the players that were just drafted? Why is there a full season prior and then another college series, and then those college series players from 3 get into, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. And so meeting of the minds came, and now the system that's in place moving forward is perfect. It's exactly the way it should be. It's exactly the way real life is. When you watch real life football, you watch the college football season. At the end of the college football season, there's a draft. Then the players that are selected in that draft go play in the NFL. And now the way that we have it structured, again, in order to do it this way, in order to get it right, we had to have 2 draft classes come together so that we now have it right. We'll have this college series, we will have the draft, and we will roll into the RFL season. And that RFL season will have everyone that was selected from the draft just several weeks before, a month before, 2 months before. That's the way it should be. And that's the way it's going to be moving forward. We have a little bit more parity in the college season, college series this year, but moving forward, I don't think we will. And so I will die on this hill. I will stand on the soapbox. Parity in the college series is good. Nobody cares about watching Oklahoma State. But if Oklahoma State had 5 submitted players and TCU had 12 instead of 17, and 5 of those guys went to Oklahoma State instead, well, now you've created a little bit more parity. And we'll see here in a minute what I mean by parity when we go into the coaches poll. But before we go into the coaches poll, I do want to bring on my special guest for the show today, who's going to go over these rankings with me. I believe he is in the back and waiting. And we're going to go over the coaches poll. Again, 8 coaches together came up with a top 10, and you'll see how it's put together, and I'll go over how it's put together. But without any further ado, we'll get into that coaches poll. And to help me go through that coaches poll, who's also seeing it for the first time. No one has seen this poll. I did not even the coaches that participated in the coaches poll have seen the coaches poll. Right now, all they know is what their top 10 is. I know what my top 10 is, and Coach A, Coach B, Coach C knows what their top 10 is. But they haven't seen the compilation, I guess, if you will, of the coaches poll coming together based on every single coach and what that's going to look like. So I will get to that in just a minute. But before I do, I want to go ahead and bring in RFL Insider. Many of you know him as Nate Allen, who is the RFL Insider, if you will, probably the biggest. He's the Adam Schefter of the RFL, if you will. Nate, welcome to the show. What's going on, bud?
Hi. It's nice
How
to
you
have me on
doing?
your show. Thanks. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
good.
man. So how's your Saturday morning treating you?
It's okay.
All right. You getting ready for the action kicking off at 1:00 today?
Yeah, I had to watch all of them, so
Have you had a chance to look at the schedule? Is there one game in particular that you're looking at today, whether it's a 1:00 game, a 4:00 game, maybe it's a late game? Actually, forget the late games. Is there a game in that 1:00 or 4:00 window that you're really looking forward to?
I had to check the schedule again. I didn't see it.
Okay. So, yeah, I think I can give you an idea right here. If we pull it up, we look at some of the games for today. So we've got Oklahoma State, Baylor. Obviously, I talked about. For me, I don't really have much interest in that game just because I think Baylor should blow the doors off them. Michigan and Iowa, probably similar. I think Michigan should win that game running away. Auburn and LSU, they both suck. So I don't really know
Oh yeah.
what we're gonna get from the Auburn Tigers versus the LSU Tigers. And UCLA and Arizona State. I'm probably higher on Arizona State than many. But UCLA just doesn't have a lot going on right now. Any one of those games that maybe I'm just really low on and you're a little bit more excited for than I am?
Um, Well, I mean, as you said, most of them are fairly one-sided. Like Michigan versus Iowa, Michigan should win that one. So maybe, hmm, I'm not really sure which one because very one-sided to me, or they're just teams that aren't as good
Yeah.
for the
I
window. So
I mean, I guess if I'm looking at these four games in the 1 o'clock window, right? Baylor, Oklahoma State, Michigan, Iowa, LSU, Auburn, and UCLA, Arizona State. I would imagine the game that is the closest game and is the, I guess most exciting game, if you will, is probably going to be that Auburn LSU game. Just because neither one of those teams are very dominant. I could envision a scenario where the final score of that game is 21-20 or 20-17, one possession game, team wins on a late field goal, late touchdown, late turnover, whatever the case might be. A lot of those other games I think are blowouts. I think Baylor wins by double digits easy. I think Michigan wins by double digits. Now, do we want to watch that Baylor game because there's a lot of RFL prospects on the Baylor side of the ball? Yeah, we do, right? But
yeah,
Oklahoma State just doesn't give us much to look forward to.
yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. Um,
Um, Look at the 4 o'clock window. So the 4 o'clock window, we've got, I would say, a little bit more compelling matchups. Not tremendously compelling. I would probably say that week 5 is to date the weakest slate of games when it comes to matchups and it comes to, like you mentioned, one-sided affairs. But we've got Florida State and Georgia. Florida State's kind of iffy. They can go out, Amari Bone and Vince Wayne can go out and look good one week and then look like garbage the next week. They lose to LSU, but then they put up a fight. They blow out Iowa. I think they beat Iowa 35-0, but they lose to LSU. Um, Georgia is another team that's kind of iffy. They should be better than their record shows. They had a tough beginning part of the season, right?
yeah.
Stanford, Oregon, Texas A&M, Alabama, and then Notre Dame, Louisville. Any of those 4 o'clock window games stand out to you?
Um, huh. I would say like uh Florida State versus Georgia because Georgia is two right now from what I see on the League Lobster site, and Florida State is 1-3. So maybe like maybe something will happen because or maybe like the first versus Oregon one.
Yeah, Stanford, Oregon. I think there's some
Because that's like a
there's some
conference
pretty good hype.
matchup. So
Sure, yeah, the Pac-12 matchup. The rest of these ones, I mean, Alabama A&M is an SEC matchup. Notre Dame Louisville is an ACC matchup. But I would agree. I think the Pac-12 is a little bit more wide open. I think Stanford's probably the bottom of the barrel, but maybe UCLA is. But Oregon's getting a lot of run lately. You look at the play of Ronnie Shanahan. He's played well right now for the Oregon Ducks, and he has them positioned to be mentioned as one of those top teams in the RFL with the chance to knock off USC and possibly win the Pac-12. Um, any other takeaways from any of those 4 o'clock window games before I unveil the coaches poll with you and ask you your thoughts on that?
um I don't see anything else.
None. All right. So what I will say about that Georgia Florida State game, I think Florida State is one of those intriguing teams considering they have one user submitted player. And I say that because there are generics outside of the user submitted players. There are generic prospects that will be draft eligible for the RFL draft later on this year. And Florida State has two of the better generic prospects, I would say, in the entire college series when you look at Amari Bone at the running back position and Vince Wayne's at the wide receiver position. The quarterback position, no. Will Stern is not good. Many will tell you he's the worst quarterback in college this year. But when you look at the running back, you look at Amari Bone, and you look at wide receiver Vince Wayne, those guys, they're going to get drafted. And they might not get drafted early because there are so many user submitted running backs and user submitted wide receivers. But there was talk last year that Amari Bone was the best running back in the league. After 2 weeks, Vince Wayne looked like he might be one of the best wide receivers in the league, and they're both generic. So, it's a little bit tough. It's a little bit difficult. They're not going to get drafted super early because they're not user submitted. And a lot of times the user submitted guys get drafted earlier. But I will tell you, the really good generic prospects a lot of times come into the RFL with better overalls, better attribute rankings, better scores than the user submitted guys. And a lot of times the user submitted guys have to play catch up on some of those generics. And eventually they can over time because they can build their player up. But as coaches, we have the ability to Patreon any one player on our roster that's not a user submitted player. So if I draft a generic in the first round, I might not, that person's a generic. He's not going to be able to build up his own player, but I can build him up. And the way that the Patreon system works for coaches is that I can build him up. I can build him up a lot in 1 year. Now I can only build up that player. I can only build up that player once. I can't build him up the following year. But as coaches, we have the ability to Patreon boost one particular player. And when we choose to Patreon boost a generic, we have to Patreon a generic. We can boost them a lot, quite a bit. I see Pecan in the chat here. Yes, the one user submitted player at Florida State is their middle linebacker, Trey Johnson. But that's it. That's all they got. And I can make an argument that the user submitted player at Florida State is the third best player on that team. I could make an argument that Amari Bone and Vince Wayne are better than Trey Johnson. And I would even go so far as to say that they might both get, they probably won't. Only because the wide receiver position, Vince Wayne's probably going to find himself on a day 2, round 4, round 5. Have you looked at any of these position groups at all and had a chance to, think about what your thoughts are for the RFL draft, Nate?
I look at them a little bit too much in detail.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll get into that a little bit later. But what I do want to do is I want to unveil the coaches poll. So again, no one has seen this. You have not seen this coaches poll, Nate. None of the coaches that participated in it have seen the coaches poll. This is something that I wanted to come up with. I thought it was a good idea. I reached out to every single coach, those that, were felt comfortable enough in providing input and wanted to be a part of it. Said, yes, great idea. Done. Let's do it. Coaches poll. And so every week we will have a coaches poll, and it will be, again, very simple, common sense. It will be comprised of what coaches feel is the top 10 teams in the college series. Doesn't have to be based on ranking. Georgia is 2-2 right now, but if you think that Georgia is one of the 10 best teams, you can put them in your top 10 for your coaches poll. It does not have to be all 4-0 and all 3-1 teams. As we move along later in the season, you will see exactly what I mean and how a lot of that plays out. You'll see you might see a 2-loss team ranked higher in the coaches poll than a couple 1-loss teams based on strength of victory, based on schedule, based on performance. If you have 1 loss, but that 1 loss was you got blown out by a crap team by 35 points, but then you're a 2-loss team who went to overtime and lost to another top 10 team and then lost by 1 or 2 or 3 to another top 10 team. You can envision a scenario where that 2-loss team is going to be ranked higher than the 1-loss team. And so I'm excited to unveil this coaches poll. I'm excited to get your thoughts And so I will throw out the coaches poll. I'm going to start with the bottom and go 10 through 6 and give you guys an idea as to what the 10 through 6 teams look like in the coaches poll. I'll go over what the how it how it comes together and what the numbers mean. And then I will ask you guys for your thoughts and your opinions. Nate, I'll get your thoughts and your opinions. Guys, if you have questions on it, if you have comments on it, throw them up in the chat. This is where I will be scouring the chat a little bit here, looking for some of those comments and getting those on, and we'll discuss. And if you have a particular opinion about something, glad to bring you up, glad to bring it on. And without any further ado, Nate, here we go. So the coaches poll for week 5, the very first coaches poll of the College Series 4 season. Here it is. Coming in at number 10, the Maryland Terrapins. Number 9, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide. Number 8, we have the North Carolina Tar Heels. Number 7, we have the Oregon Ducks. And number 6, we have the Washington Huskies. Now, for those of you looking at this 6 through 10 here and looking over to the far right, and you see Washington has 33 points, Oregon has 26 points, same as North Carolina. What the heck does that mean? So the coaches poll is put together in a way that the coaches poll is put together. I'm sorry, I'm looking at some of the comments here. I can only assume that CC's complaining because Georgia's not in the top 10. Shocking development there. Someone at Georgia is complaining that they're not ranked higher than they are. So the coaches poll is put together based on every coach puts their 1 through 10. Whatever team they have at the 1 spot gets 10 points. Whatever team they have at the 2 spot gets 9 points. And so basically what I did was I took every single coach and every single team that they ranked in the top 10, and I gave them a point total. So basically all this means is that the Maryland Terrapins received 10 points worth of votes. So that could be, that could be 4 coaches had them as the number 9 team, right? And the number 9 team would get 2 points. So if 4 coaches had them getting 2 points, that would be 8. And then 2 coaches had them at the 10, ranked 10th, and they got 1 point for that. So that would give you the total of 10 points. Now, again, that's just an example. I don't know exactly how many coaches even had Maryland in the top 10. I will tell you I had Maryland in the top 10. I will also tell you I had Maryland higher than 10. I'd have to go back and take a look at my particular rankings, but I believe I had Maryland at 7, I believe it was. So for me alone, Maryland got 4 points. 4 points. 4 of their 10 points came from me alone. So taking a look at this right here, Nate, taking a look at 6 through 10, what are your thoughts here on this first edition of the coaches poll?
I think the list is okay. Maybe Maryland should be a little higher. Maybe Maryland should be a little higher, in my opinion. But
okay. So let me ask you, because I had Maryland at, I believe I had them at 7, which means I gave them 4 points. They have 10 points total. So you're saying I'm probably more in line. You're probably more in line with me on Maryland. And after all the other coaches were tallied, it brought Maryland down. But you're saying Maryland's probably closer up to that, 8, 7 range, like I had them?
Maybe 11, 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you're bumping Maryland up, let's say you're moving Maryland up a couple spots. You don't like them at 10, you like them at 8. Are you just bumping this down? Are you saying Bama's 10? Are you saying North Carolina's now 9? Or are you saying, you know what, I don't think Washington's that good at all. Washington's 10. Like, what are you, when you look at these teams right here, 6 through 10, you just said you'd bump Maryland up a little bit, maybe to 8. Is there anyone else here that maybe you would remove altogether from this top 10 that you just don't even think is worthy of being here?
I am looking at it. maybe I would move, like, I would switch some teams. Like, I wouldn't take them off personally, but I would just, like, kinda swap them around.
Who are you talking about?
Like, mm, I'm kinda just looking like, with me, I'm kinda looking at the teams and, like, what teams they played and stuff like that.
Yep.
But
Sure. I mean, you have
so,
to. You have to look at who they played and how difficult their
kinda like the
schedule has
strength of
been.
schedule. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
kinda like the strength of schedule, because, like, Maryland play, Washington, right? And, I mean, they lost, but it would they lost in over, so it was somewhat, a close game. So it's not like, you know, they were blown out or something like that, because all their
Right. The
other
what? Yeah,
games,
they won.
like, yeah, like, obviously they won against Oklahoma State, which is not really that hard. They won against Michigan and UCLA, but I feel like them, like, kind of like, Britain to the overtime game kind of proves that they're better, with strong condition. If that makes any
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. So before you go any further, I'm gonna address something that's going on in the chat right now because I CC, I see CC Akini in the chat complaining that North Carolina is in here at number 8 after the loss they took to South Carolina. CC, this was all done prior to all of these rankings were done through week 4. So this was supposed to be unveiled to everyone on Wednesday night. And because I ended up, for those of you that don't know, I ended up being selected for jury duty, and I was in court as a part of a jury for the entire week. Wednesday night, I was in a courtroom for 12 hours trying to decide someone's innocence or guilt. So I didn't have minors live on Wednesday. This was done. All of these results, all of these coaches' rankings had to be back to me by Tuesday evening so that I could put this graphic together and have it ready for Wednesday night. So, CC, yes, you bring up a good point. The Tar Heels being ranked on this list after they lost to South Carolina is crazy. And I do see your comment there. What I will tell you is there's a good chance that they are not going to be on this coaches poll next week because of that loss. The loss to South Carolina has nothing to do with this list. This is all based on through week 4. Hence the reason why you see the records there are for North Carolina is 3-1, not 3-2, because that South Carolina game does not count. And we see a couple other coaches here in the chat. I see Mitch here in the chat. I had them at 8. I think Mitch is talking about North Carolina. Mitch, correct me if I'm wrong. You're talking about North Carolina there, or maybe you're talking about Maryland you had at 8. Coach Mula also part of the coaches poll. So just to give you an idea who some of the coaches are, Mitchie is part of the coaches poll. Mula is part of the coaches poll. I'm not sure Mula, same thing. If you're talking about you had Maryland at 7 or 8, or if you had Carolina at 7 or 8, regardless, I think that Carolina is going to be falling, and there's a really good chance that next week they're not on the coaches poll at all, based on, like CC said, the somewhat embarrassing loss to South Carolina. So just wanted to clarify that, CC. I know that was probably driving you nuts, but that's exactly the explanation there. None of this had anything to do with the games on Thursday night. Okay, Nate, back to you. Anything else that you see here in the 6 through 10 range that strikes you?
I was gonna say something about North Carolina, but you already talked about that. So,
Okay.
um, um, for some reason my browser is frozen, so I can't.
Oh, so you can't see it?
I Yeah, my browser is like frozen. I think I have to like I have to leave and come back because my browser for some reason is frozen. I can't click
Okay.
anything.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I'll let you go. I'll see you when you hop back in. We'll get you back on for the top 5. All right.
All right, thanks.
All right, bud. No worries. All right. So we've got 6 through 10 here. Again, Washington with 33 points, Oregon with 26, North Carolina with 26. The reason why, I'll give you guys an idea of how this worked here. The reason why Oregon came in at number 7 and North Carolina came in at number 8 is because there were more, the Oregon Ducks received the higher over, there was one particular coach that had Oregon at a higher rank than any one particular coach had North Carolina, if that makes sense. Let me explain it a different way. Basically, there's someone out there that had Oregon as the number, let's just call it 4 team in the country, but nobody had North Carolina as the 4 team in the country. So because there was somebody out there that had Oregon as a 4 team and no one had Oregon as a 4 team, Oregon wins that tiebreak based on one of the coaches putting Oregon higher. And then the only other tiebreak that I used in some of these scenarios is if it was even, if it was a split in a case where the highest overall rank that a team received that was tied with another team, if I couldn't determine based on which one got a higher overall from one particular coach, then what I did was I looked at how many overall coaches voted for that team. So for example, there's one team that was very close to making this list, and that was the Texas Longhorns. The Texas Longhorns, up until the final coach's submission, the Maryland Terrapins and the Texas Longhorns had 7 points each. And Texas was originally going to be the number 10 team because Maryland had 7 points, Texas had 7 points, and Texas had more coaches voting for them, albeit in the 9 or 10 spot, because Texas had 5 of the 7 coaches voting for them, and Maryland only had 4 of the 7 coaches voting for them. Texas originally was going to be that number 10 team. But the final coaches poll came in. Maryland, obviously, I guess whoever that final coach was, we know had Maryland at 8. And so they got 3 points. You get 1 point for being 10th, 2 points for being 9th, 3 points for being 8th. That final poll that came through from whatever coach that was had Maryland at number 8. That brought Maryland from 7 points to 10 points. Texas wasn't in that top 10 from that particular coach. Texas is on the outside looking in at 7. Maryland gets bumped into that spot. So just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how potential tiebreakers work, how this overall system works. If you have any questions on anything, I don't really see. No, Cece, you're good. I didn't think that you were complaining. I just wanted you to understand why North Carolina was up there, because you brought up a good point. Why would North Carolina be up there after an embarrassing loss to South Carolina? I just wanted to make sure you and everyone else, because I didn't explain it prior to pulling it up. And so I appreciate you mentioning it, because it gave me a reason to go back and make sure that I stressed the importance that this was through week 4. So none of the games from Thursday night are considered here. And obviously none of the games that are going to take place later today and later on the rest of the weekend are considered here. Now back to Miners Live next week, hopefully back to Wednesday night. And I will have the coaches poll on Wednesday night for those of you to see. And this won't really be an issue moving forward. I would imagine North Carolina falls outside the top 10. Any other questions here before we move on? Tyon was voted by all the RFL coaches. Okay, so I see a lot of people addressing something that Tyon said. I don't know if I can go back and try to scroll through and find what Tyon said or where he said it. But yeah, Tyon, if you have a question, wondering about something, please feel free to throw it up there again. I didn't see it originally, so I will. But yeah, this is the coaches poll voted on by, I believe there was 8, all 8 coaches. So there are 8 coaches in total that are a part of the coaches poll. And that's where this comes from. This is not the RFL top 25. Welcome back, Nate. Have not gone to the top 5 yet. Going to get there in a minute. Here's a question from Big Bank Games. So how did Bama get 9? Okay, so again, Bama got 9 because 8 coaches were polled on who they thought their top 10 teams were, and enough coaches had Bama somewhere in their top 10. I will tell you, I don't think anyone, if I pull this up, let's see if I can do this quick. I don't believe anybody had Bama any higher than 4, any higher than 6, maybe. Let me see if I can find it. Coaches poll here. So the highest that Bama got was they received a vote for number 6 team in the country. So one particular coach had Bama as the number 6 team in the country. And so because of that, they got 5 points, right? Again, you get 10 points for 10 points for a vote as the number 1 team, 9 points for a vote as the number 2 team, and you go down and down and down, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 point. So because Bama got a vote by one particular coach as the number 6 team in the country, they received 5 points. They then received a vote as the number 8 team in the country. That gave them 3 points to give them a total of 8. And then they received 2 votes as the number 10 team in the country, 1 point for each. That brings them from 8 to 10. I must have missed somebody else's vote here. What did I miss? So Bama got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know what? I think I just I typed the number in there wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh no, you know what it was? I'm not looking at the late edition. I'm only looking at 7 of the coaches. There was the 8th and final coach submitted his rankings after I had originally polled this. So that's not on here. So that's why I just said Bama had 10 points. The final coach, whoever that final coach's poll was, had Bama at 9, and that gave Bama the additional 2 points. That's where Bama gets the 12 points, and the 12 points is what got them to the number 9 spot. So hopefully that answers your question there. Big bank games on how Bama got the number 9. You'll notice that these rankings are 100% based on the number of points. So whatever team has the highest number of points is going to receive the number 1 ranking, and whoever has the second most points is going to receive the number 2 ranking. But great question there from Big Bank Games. Yeah, let's see. What do we got here? A couple other things. Say the coach that ranked Bama that high. Guys, I don't know. So you guys want me to tell you like what coaches ranked what teams. The whole point of this is that it was anonymous. Coaches originally, guys, we wouldn't have this. We be grateful that we have this. And what else we have, even after the coaches poll, you're going to appreciate even more, is the top 5 draft prospects by position. We weren't going to have this because no coach wanted to unveil their top 5 players to me, because I'm the one organizing this whole thing. Coaches didn't want to give me their list. Hey, Dunn, here's my list of 5 quarterbacks. Here's my list of 5 running backs. Go ahead and mark your RFL draft board, knowing that Mitchie likes this running back at number 1 and Mula likes this running back at number 3. Like, coaches didn't want to do that, and they shouldn't want to do that. If they did, that would give me a competitive advantage, and that's not fair to them. I wanted to do this because I thought it was a great idea for the league, and I thought everyone would appreciate it. And so the only way to do it to make it fair was for the coaches' submissions and their responses to remain 100% anonymous. So I told all the coaches, when you fill out this form, don't tell me when you're done. I don't want to know when you're done, because I'm probably going to be the first one to fill it out. And then if you tell me if I send it to all the coaches and 2 minutes later, Mitchie says, hey, I filled mine out, and I go and I look and I see that there's 2 responses and I know what mine is, and there's only 2, and Mitchie just told me he just did his, well, then I know that that is Mitchie's. And now I have a competitive advantage because I know what Mitchie's ranks are. And the whole point is to not be able to get that advantage if coaches feel that I'm at any point going to have a competitive advantage by doing this, they're not going to do it. So it has to remain anonymous. I don't know who those coaches are. I'm certainly not going to tell you who those coaches are. If they want to tell you, like you saw Mitch and you saw Mula earlier on, they told you that they had UNC or Maryland or whoever it was at 7, 8, or 9. I will tell you who my teams are. In terms of the coaches poll, at the end of the day, it's not as important. What we're not going to do, and what I am certainly not going to do, is tell you who, because again, I don't even know, but tell you who had what player rankings, because I don't really know. All I know is on Tuesday evening, I go and I look and see how many submissions there are. And if there's only 5 or 6 submissions, I send a message to the other coaches that I say, hey guys, I need 8 submissions on this. I've only got 6. There's 2 of you that haven't submitted yet. Don't tell me when you submit. Just please try to go ahead and submit between now and then. I don't want to know who you are that's already submitted. I don't want to know who you are that hasn't submitted. I don't want to know anything. I just want you to take the form, go fill out the form, and hopefully all 8 coaches have submitted by Tuesday evening, so I have time to put the graphic together. This is not nice. Logan Goldberry. Let's see. What do we got? Mix has got something here. What's he saying? I don't think it's as big of a deal as guys are making it. It's not like you need to put your sleepers on the list, but it's clear who is leading the country, bro. No need to hide Stern from Dunn. Yeah, spoiler alert, Will Stern is going to be number 1 on my top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Yeah, I mean, if you guys are making a little bit of a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. But again, coaches poll, it's exciting. It's good for you guys to get an idea of what the coaches think, not just what the official top 25 is based on records. So with that, Nate, any last thoughts on this 6 through 10 before I go ahead and move forward and unveil the top 5? Any thoughts on process or anything like that?
Process of it, like the point system and stuff like that.
Right. Did you understand all that? I mean, I went over it, but I mean, that makes sense to you, right? Is there anyone at this point that still doesn't understand how the coaches poll was put together? It's all based on points. Coaches put a team down as the number 1 team. If they put a team down as the number 1 team, they got 10 points. So basically looking at this, Maryland could have gotten, some coach could have voted Maryland the number 1 team in the country. But if they did, then what that's telling you is that none of the other coaches even had them on the list whatsoever, because they only have 10 points total, and you get 10 points for receiving a first place vote. I think at this point we can move forward. I think everyone pretty much understands it. All right. And what everyone really wants, 10 through 6 is nice, but what you guys really want to see is 1 through 5. I know you all have been waiting to see the top 5 teams in the country based on the coaches poll heading into week 5 through 4 weeks of the college series is, here we go. There it is, folks. The top 5 teams in the country. Coming in at number 1, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes, 75 points. The Miami Hurricanes in at number 2 with 69 points. The TCU Horned Frogs in at number 3 with 69 points. I'll go over that in a second. The USC Trojans come in at number 4 with a total of 51 points, and the West Virginia Mountaineers come in at number 5 with a total of 44 points. Now, many of you looking at this thinking, why did Miami get the 2 instead of TCU? They both have the same number of points. They both have the same record. What was the determining factor in giving Miami the number 2 spot and not giving TCU the number 2 spot? And it basically came down to, I believe, what was it? Somebody had, crap. Now I'm trying to look at it here in, I believe it was, yeah. So it was Miami and TCU both had the same number of. They both received some first place votes. I will tell you, both Miami and TCU received first place votes. They received the same number of first place votes. So I couldn't go based on which team received more higher overall votes. I had to go based on the next ranking. And because Miami had more coaches voted Miami as the number 2 team than they voted TCU, Miami got the tiebreaker over TCU, if that makes sense. So basically, two coaches voted for Miami as the number 1 team in the country. 2 coaches voted for TCU as the number 1 team in the country, but there were more coaches of the remaining coaches. There were more coaches that had Miami as the number 2 team in the country. In fact, there were 4 coaches, I believe, that had Miami as the 2 team, and there were only 2 coaches that had TCU as the 2 team. And so Miami won the tiebreak over TCU. Miami gets the number 2 spot. TCU gets the number 3 spot, even though they have the same number of points. Okay, Nate, back to you. Anything that strikes you? What is the first thing that pops into your mind when you look at this coach's poll? Go.
What I'm thinking is I look at the top 3 teams. They're undefeated. Wondering which team is going to lose first, because I'm not really sure about that. I do like the top 5. I mean, I feel like with West Virginia and USC, you could probably say, like, you put West Virginia at 4 and USC at 5. But I feel like the top 5 is pretty of a good list. I don't
Yeah, I
have
mean,
any disagreements with.
I think it's tough to argue the top 3. And if you look at the points, you'll see there's quite a bit of a drop off from the top 3 undefeated teams, Ohio State, Miami, and TCU, and then the drop off where you see USC. There's 18 points separating USC and TCU. That's a lot of points to make up. When there's 8 coaches, in order for USC to make up 18 points, they've got to be ranked higher than TCU on, and not only do they have to be ranked higher than TCU by every coach, they have to be ranked quite a bit higher, maybe even like 2 spots higher. Like there's got to be a coach out there that says USC is the number 2 team in the country and TCU is the number 5 team in the country. In order for that disparity, that gap to sort of be bridged a little bit tighter, a little bit closer. West Virginia in at number 5. I think West Virginia is one of those teams that is just kind of treading along. They don't really get a lot of run when it comes to the top teams in the country, but they're certainly worthy of being in this top 10. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on, you brought up the undefeated teams. You posed the question, which one of these undefeated teams is going to lose first? I guess, what are your thoughts there? Do you have a team in mind that you think is going to get knocked off first between those 3?
I guess on paper, I would always say like TCU, but since it's the college series, we don't know what's going to happen. So on paper for me, it would probably be TCU. Because I
TCU,
feel
you think?
like with Miami, yeah, because with Miami, I feel like their defense is a little bit better than TCU's. So,
So
if
you've
like
got
that's just how I
TCU being
feel.
the first team between Ohio State, Miami, and TCU. You think TCU is going to lose first, right?
Yeah,
Is that
at
what you're
least on
saying?
paper, because yeah, paper because
Well,
as
you
you
don't
know, the
play
college
games
series
on
is
paper.
pretty
You don't play games on paper, Nate. Come on.
That's
Answer
true.
the question. Is TCU going to lose before Miami or Ohio State?
Yeah, I feel that way. I feel
Okay.
like
Don't
they
look
will
down at
lose
your
first.
notes. Don't look down at your wide ruled, college ruled, trapper keeper, 3 subject notebook. We don't play games on paper. All right. Ronnie Shanahan brings up a good point. TCU may not have a top tier defense, but they're 4-0 for that 3rd spot. I would give Miami the 2nd spot because they only gave up 46 points on defense. Look, I think it's a legitimate point. When you look at Ohio State and you look at Miami, their defenses are better than TCU. Now, I would make the argument that TCU's offense is better than both of theirs. But again,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and honestly,
This is why.
none of that really matters because the tiebreakers are never going to be opinion based. The tiebreaker is never going to be, oh, I think this or so and so thinks that. The tiebreaker is always going to be data driven. Either the tiebreaker is going to go to the team that received more higher ranking votes, or the tiebreaker is going to go to the team that received more overall submissions inside the top 10 in general. So none of that is subjective at all. It is 100% objective. It is either, it's all there in the data, and it's easy for me to determine who is going to receive the tiebreak in those scenarios. This is never going to be a case, guys. I cannot stress this enough. This is never going to be a situation where, oh, Dunn thinks that Miami is better than TCU. That's why he gave Miami the 2 spot and TCU the 3 spot. This isn't about me. This is about 8 coaches who thought that it was a good idea to get together and come up with their overall rankings and have something for you guys that was a little bit more subjective. We all get together and we all have different opinions, but it's not one man's opinion. It's not going on Miners Live and this is Dunn's opinion, going on the 307 film room and this is Mitchie's opinion, going on the Boomcast and this is Moolah's opinion, going on Back Talk and this is Back's opinion. That's not what this is. This is literally as if you watched all of those podcasts all in the same week and then came back to me at the end of the week and said, let's try to figure out what Dunn, Back, Moolah, and Mitchie all said at the same time. Here it is, folks. It's right in front of you. Mitchie, Back, Moolah, Dunn. It's all right there. We are all involved. Spoiler alert. They're not going to hide that from you guys. They've all said it already in the chat already. Those are 4 of the 8 coaches. You don't have to figure out whose opinion is weighted higher. The data speaks for itself. So again, top 5 teams in the country: Ohio State, Miami, TCU, USC, and West Virginia. Nate, let's go out to the chat here and see if we got anything good. I got Ronnie Shanahan's comment there. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about Miami's defense being better, Ohio State's defense being better. Mix brings up a good point. As long as the teams are not outscoring TCU, as long as TCU's offense scores more points, their defense can be as bad as they want to be. But if their defense gives up 23, well, they just got to score 24, right? Out of the 4 weeks, sorry, Shannon asked something I'm not sure. Maybe playoffs. I'm not sure what these questions are. Let's see. What's TCU next couple of games? Does anybody know? Yes, we do. It looks like Miles McCain already answered it. TCU's next couple games are Tennessee and Oklahoma State. Those are 2 games that they should probably win. So looking at that, then I guess here's what I'm going to do, because I do this to everyone else, Nate. Whenever someone else says something like that, I take him to task on it. So I'm going to do the same thing to you. We just saw that TCU plays Tennessee and TCU plays Oklahoma State. And you just said that TCU is going to go 6-0. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to look at Miami's schedule and Miami's upcoming schedule right here in front of us. Miami has Clemson. And then they have the bye. So they're certainly not going to win there. I'm jumping to conclusions here. You're saying that Miami's going to win that game because you said TCU was going to lose before Miami. So Miami can't lose that game to Clemson because TCU is not going to lose to Tennessee or Oklahoma State, right?
Yeah, I think.
You think Miami's going to beat Clemson?
Yeah.
Miami going to beat UNC?
Yeah, a game they could win.
Notre Dame, Arizona State, Texas, Florida State, Wisconsin, Baylor. The way I see it is, if anyone's going to go undefeated, it might be Miami.
Yeah, unless if some like upset happens or something like that.
I mean, maybe they suffer an injury. They get an injury in the middle of the game. If
Oh
there's an
yeah, I
injury in the
forgot
middle of the
injuries.
game, Hodge goes down for 2 quarters or something. Maybe UNC finds a way to upset Miami. Maybe Granger and the Longhorns find a way to upset Miami. But those are both home games for Miami. Like UNC,
Yeah.
that's at Miami. Notre Dame, it's at Miami. Texas is at Miami. I mean, the road games they have Arizona State, Florida State, Wisconsin, and Baylor. I mean, Baylor's the game. The Week 13 game against Baylor, there's a chance that game might get Baylor into the Final Four conversation. And then let's take a look at Ohio State. So Ohio State has Penn State this week, and then Oregon next week. Iowa the week after that. We don't envision Ohio State losing one of those 3 games, do we? Maybe Oregon. Is Ohio State going to lose to Oregon?
I'd be close. I can see them losing to Oregon. Like, I can see them losing to Oregon. They definitely would not lose to Iowa. So something crazy happens.
So then let's fast forward. Let's say they beat Oregon. See, Ohio State's got a tougher road, I think, than Miami does. Miami has one difficult game left, and that's Baylor. While Ohio State doesn't have maybe the level of, I think they do though, because Ohio State has Oregon, who is more difficult than any team not named Baylor that Miami has. And they also have West Virginia, which is more difficult than any team not named Baylor that Miami has. And then they also
Yeah.
have Maryland and Michigan. So Ohio State, I think, you posed the question earlier, undefeated teams, and I even mentioned it in the agenda for the show. Are we going to see an undefeated team this season? I think if we're going to see an undefeated team, Miami is the most likely team to go undefeated. Would you agree?
Yeah. I agree with that.
Because I think also looking at TCU's schedule, they've got to play Oklahoma State this week, or no, they got Tennessee, Oklahoma State. They win. Oklahoma in week 7. That could be, maybe Alan Mourning breaks out of the funk and D'Amico Brewer, and they finally get something going. Maybe they knock off TCU, but then week 8, TCU has West Virginia. That's a tough game. Week 10, TCU has Baylor. That could be a tough game. Week 12, they have Alabama, another top 10 team in the coaches poll right now. And then week 13, they have Maryland, again, a top 10 team in the coaches poll. So if you look at TCU's remaining schedule, they have, let's see, we're in week 5. So they've got 1, 2, 3. No, I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong line. I'm TCU. They have week 5 is Tennessee, Oklahoma State. So they have West Virginia. So West Virginia, Baylor, Alabama, West Virginia, Alabama, Maryland. West Virginia, Alabama, and Maryland are all currently inside the top 10 coaches pool. So TCU, according to the coaches, has 3 teams remaining that are in the top 10. That's the most difficult schedule, I think. Miami's got 1. They beat Baylor. And they probably are undefeated.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Nate, any final thoughts on the coaches poll here? The top 10, I'll pull it up real quick again. Number 10, Maryland. Number 9, Alabama. Number 8, North Carolina. Number 7, Oregon. Number 6, Washington. Number 5, West Virginia. Number 4, USC. The TCU Horned Frogs come in at number 3. Miami in at number 2, and the Ohio State Buckeyes in at number 1. Any final thoughts on the coaches poll there? What say you?
I think the poll is pretty good to me. I think on the lower part of the poll, some teams should be, like I said before, some teams should be higher, some teams should be lower. I don't feel like any of the teams should be off of the poll, like especially the bottom 5 teams. But I feel like some teams should be, like with Maryland, I feel like they should be a little bit higher. Since it isn't recent, like North Carolina should be a little bit, like if this was recent after the North Carolina lost to South Carolina, I feel like they should be a little bit lower. But since this poll isn't like a recent poll, like what happened, it's understandable that North Carolina is 8, and Alabama, like I think they should stay where they should be. I mean, I feel like they're a top 10 or 15 team.
Yeah, I'm laughing at some of the people that are still in the chat that just think that this is my opinion. Because the title of the graphic doesn't give it away. Coaches poll. I said it 15 times. There's 8 coaches that are part of it. But anyway, I digress. I move on. Nate, appreciate the time. Glad to have you on. For those of you that don't know, Nate Allen is the official RFL insider. Once the RFL season starts, if you're not currently following him on Twitter, you're doing something wrong. For those of you that don't have a Twitter account, you are doing something wrong. Make sure you follow Nate on Twitter at Chrome RFL. Again, at Chrome RFL. He's the RFL insider. He is what we affectionately refer to as the Adam Schefter of the RFL. There are any sorts of news, notes, rumors, trade discussions, all of that stuff. He is scouring the Discord, and coaches are giving him nuggets. He's asking coaches, and he's putting all that stuff together. So if you're looking for the rumor mill in the RFL, make sure you are following at Chrome RFL on Twitter. Nate, again, appreciate the time. Thanks for coming on today, buddy.
No problem. It was great to be on your list. It's been great. Thank
All
you
right,
for
man.
having
We'll
me on
talk
here.
soon. Yeah, of course. We'll talk to you later,
Sounds
bud.
good.
All right, man. See ya. All right. So again, Nate Allen, RFL insider at Chrome RFL. If you see him in the Discord, if you follow him on Twitter, you see some of the stuff, some of the good news and insight that he puts out there. So glad to have him on the show. Nice to have someone on the show that hasn't been on the show before, but also someone that is so invested in the league as he's been doing that for so long now. So again, thanks to Chrome for coming on. And I'm going to take a quick peek out to the chat, see if there's any questions on anything. I know a lot of you are still trying to figure out the coaches poll. I will post this on Twitter. So again, make sure you're following at Miners RFL on Twitter. I will have the coaches poll on Twitter immediately following the show. And that'll be up there before the 1:00 games kick off. So again, we're about 45 minutes away from first kickoff. I will take you pretty close to kickoff. Give you enough time to go grab another cup of coffee, go grab a sandwich, go take a shower, whatever it is you need to do. What else we got in the chat here, guys? This is from all coaches. Yes, again, for those of you wondering, Ronnie Shanahan will speak for me. This is for all coaches, not Dunn's top 10 voting. Guys, if you want to know my top 10, for crying out loud, here, let's see. My top 10. If you want to come at me, fine, come at me, but leave the other 7 coaches alone, for crying out loud. It's a coaches poll with all of the coaches, not just me. My top 10 was, I had Ohio State at number 1. Was this mine? No, that wasn't mine. I can find mine here. I was the high man on Maryland, I believe. So where is Maryland? Okay, so I believe I had Ohio State number 1. I had TCU number 2. I had Miami number 3. I had USC number 4. West Virginia number 5. Washington number 6. Maryland number 7. North Carolina number 8. Oregon number 9. And Alabama number 10. If you guys have a problem with my top 10, Coach Dunn's top 10, fine, let me have it. Ohio State 1, TCU 2, Miami 3, USC 4, West Virginia 5, Washington 6, Maryland 7, North Carolina 8, Oregon 9, and Alabama 10. That is my top 10. Everything that you saw previously was the collective coaches' top 10. Okay. Anyone have a problem with my top 10? How the poll was made before he showed us. Still tried coming at him. I mean, I appreciate. Normally, this is great because normally I don't have guys coming to my defense. Normally, 10, 15, 20 of you in the chat are usually coming at me collectively for something. You don't like where I ranked your team. You don't like what I said about your player. You don't like what I said about the performance in last week's game, whatever it is. So finally, for the first time, we're getting to a point where I've got people coming to my defense, and they shouldn't have to, guys. Just read, listen. Are you on mute? Do you have are you not even on mute? Are you just not paying attention? I did a whole bit last week. Here I go again. I did a whole bit last week about people not paying attention. Coaches want players that listen. Coaches want players that pay attention. People don't pay attention in Discord. They don't understand questions, and then they answer them without actually understanding the question in the first place. And then you wonder why we call you out, and you wonder why we throw you under the bus. Mix, your top 10 is terrible. It's terrible. Come on, Mix. Couldn't you have done it in your Barkley, your best Charles Barkley text? Your top 10 is terrible. I'm going to draft all of your players. Done. Well, you would be this year's version of Mitch if you did, because last year I had 3 players that I wanted, and there were 3 instances where Mitch picked either immediately right in front of me or 2 or 3 spots right in front of me. And 3 times Mitch took the player that I had in various rounds. I think one of them was in round 2. I know one of them was in round 2. And then I think a couple others were in round 5 or round 6 or something. Mitch just sniped me. So if you're going to be that guy, Mix, if you're going to be that guy this year, that's fine. That's fine. Just know, I think I have more picks than you. So maybe I'll be the one sniping you. How you like me now? Hope you like apples. All right. So let's move on. Let's go to since we're talking about the RFL draft, let's go and talk about the top 5 draft prospects again. I'm taking a deep breath here, guys, because I want everyone to understand. For those of you that missed it earlier on when I explained the coaches poll and I explained how it came together and how it all worked, maybe you weren't on the show earlier on and maybe you joined the show late. That's fine. I'm not going to get too upset with you for that. Just next time, make sure you're here when the show starts, you jerks. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain this now because at this point, I don't think we have any stragglers. At this point, you're in it, you're committed, you're already here. And I appreciate that. So I'm going to unveil the top 5 RFL draft prospects by position. And I have 2 position groups that I'm going to unveil today. I'm going to unveil the running back position, and I'm going to unveil the quarterback position. Javier Santana, Dunn is not a morning person, I can tell. Listen, man, I was up at 6:45 this morning, okay? You can call me not a morning person all you want, but I promise you, you were not awake at 6:45 this morning. I don't care what time zone you live in. Awesome crocodile. He must have took one of your linebackers. Done. Yeah. Oh, we're going back to Mitchie. So we're going back to Mitchie in the draft. Yes. Why would you say that? CC, why would you say that? He must have taken one of my linebackers. Would it have anything to do with the fact that Mitchie took 17 linebackers in the draft? Maybe. His first 3 picks in the draft were linebackers? Of course. Of course, one of them was a linebacker. Obviously, CC knows Mitch's draft from last year. He knows he took a ton of linebackers. That's why he says it. And Mitchie knows. Mitch and I talked prior to the draft because I was trying to trade up to get his pick in the first round because I wanted a particular player, and I had a late first round pick and didn't think the guy was going to be there. As it turns out, I ended up getting the guy anyway at 14. Let's see. Who's trying to be friendly? Someone's trying to be friendly. I wasn't going to bring this up, Done. Mix, I don't know what you weren't. I wasn't going to bring this up. I don't know what you're talking about. Did I bring up something you didn't want to bring up? All right. So we will go. Let's just do it. The top 5 RFL draft prospects by position. Again, this is voted on by coaches. This is not me. This is not me telling you who I think the top 5 quarterbacks are or who the top 5 running backs are. This is a collective effort from many of the coaches in the RFL. And what players we feel are the best potential RFL players at that position. This does not have anything to do with looking at the stats for this season in the college series and saying, okay, this running back has the most rushing yards and the most touchdowns, so he's number 1. This running back has the second most rushing yards, he's number 2. That is not what this is. If you have a problem with that, well, if you have a problem with it, then you're going to say something in the chat in a minute here because you don't understand and you probably weren't paying attention. But I love you anyway. I really do. Love you anyway. All right. So the top 5 RFL draft prospects by position. I'm going to start with the running back position. So here's a look at the top 5 running backs based on the coaches and who we feel the best future RFL players are. Here we go. There you have it. The number 1 running back prospect entering the RFL draft as of right now. So again, keep this in mind as well, guys. I will update this later on in the season. So we're doing this right now, entering week 5. I'll probably do it again with the coaches entering week 10. And then I'll probably do it immediately after the season. So we'll have the rankings right now. We'll have the rankings again in about 5 weeks. That way we'll have a chance to see if anything changes. We're not going to do this every week. It doesn't make sense. Things aren't going to change that drastically on a week-to-week basis. However, they might change drastically on a month or a month and a half basis. And I say that because if we were to ask this question at the beginning of the season 5 weeks ago, Kareem Parker, who's in at number 2 right now, would probably not even be on the list. So it just goes to show you how much can change in 5 weeks. Again, we're not going to do this every week. It doesn't make sense, and it would be stupid to do. But I'm doing it right now. We'll do it again, probably entering week 10, and then we'll do it again at the end of the season as we get prepared for the actual RFL draft. So the number 1 running back in the country, Darnell Hodge, came in with a total of 34 points. Guys, what I will tell you is that there was only 7 coaches that participated in this particular ranking system here. And again, same logic and the same system, the same process was used. If you got a first place vote, this was only top 5. So a first place vote, you got 5 points. A second place vote, you got 4 points. Okay. And if you got a 5th place vote, you got 1 point. What this shows you, for those of you that haven't caught on yet, is that every single coach, except for 1, had Darnell Hodge as the number 1 running back prospect heading into the RFL draft. And you can tell that information by simply looking at the points. There were 7 coaches that voted. 6 of them had him at number 1. That gave him 30 points, 5 points for each first place vote. That's the 30 points. And then 1 coach had him at number 2. That gave him 4 points for the second place vote for a grand total of 34 points. If there's anything, if we're ever going to get close to anything unanimous, this is probably as close as we're ever going to get to somebody being the unanimous decision for number 1 player at the position. Darnell Hodge comes in with a maximum possible total of 35, and he lands with 34. So congratulations, Darnell Hodge, as of right now, the number 1 running back prospect heading into the draft. Now, again, everyone's going to be a little bit different. Take this with a grain of salt for whatever it is. There are some coaches, obviously, we know of one particular coach. We don't know who that particular coach is, but we know there's a coach out there that, as of right now, does not think that Darnell Hodge is the best running back. So perhaps he's not the first running back selected on draft day. Perhaps he's not one of the first 2 running backs. We don't know. Only time will tell. But again, as of right now, top 5 running back prospects heading into the RFL draft. Darnell Hodge, 34 points, number 1. Kareem Parker, 23 points, number 2. Levi Dixon, running back at USC. Big drop off here. Number 3 with 12 points. D'Amico Brewer comes in at number 4 with 12 points as well. Dixon got the tiebreak there over Brewer. And Tennessee running back TJ Weston rounds out the top 5 with 6 points. Now, what I will tell you guys is that the 5 through 7 range was very tight. And so you might not see a particular player here in the top 5 and wondering why. How can he not be in the top 5? They probably were very, very close. Again, you got 1 point for getting a 5th place vote. So you may not have received, you may only have received, you could have received, there were 7 coaches that participated. You could have received a 5th place vote from 4 of them. And then 2 coaches had you not in the top 5. You would have only got 4 points. And that would have put you outside the top 5. Even though 4 coaches had you in the top 5 at number 5, you would have only received 4 points for that. And then if 2 other coaches don't have you in at all, then you get no credit. You get no points and you're stuck with those 4 points. So I believe that that was the most fair way to go about this. Again, I'm taking rankings from several other coaches and I'm trying to put them all together to come up with a collective ranking, a collective score. And I feel like, for my money, that's the best way to go about it. If you got a vote for first place, you got 5 points here. So again, here's the top 5: Darnell Hodge, Kareem Parker, Levi Dixon, D'Amico Brewer, and TJ Weston. I will take a minute and go out to the chat right now, see if there's anyone has anything to say about this. Looks like people talking about other stuff here. Oh, now guys are trash talking. Who on Tennessee? No one cares. Anything? What do we got here? Weston just barely made it. Yes, that's correct, Ronnie Shanahan. Congratulations. You can read. What do we got? All right. So Kareem to D'Amico. Kareem to D'Amico was Worsley? I don't understand what you're saying here, Hodge. Kareem to D'Amico was Worsley? I don't know. If you're talking about something completely different, that's fine. If you're talking about something here with Kareem and why he's ahead of D'Amico or something, I'll address it if you want. But I think everyone kind of figured Hodge would be number 1. Anything else here? What I will tell you guys is that for me personally, look, I know you guys want to often come at me for my opinion. I will tell you that there is one player in this top 5 that I did not have. My top 5 consisted of 4 of these guys. And then there was one player that I did not have. And I'll just tell you, I didn't have TJ Weston. So TJ Weston got 0 points from me. I did not have him in the top 5. And if I take a quick peek and give you an idea, I believe I had, I think I had Brewer at 5. And I had Rashad Boston at Arizona State in my top 5. I think I had him. I had Rashad Boston. So my top 5, for those of you that, care and want to complain about something that I say or do, I had Darnell Hodge at number 1, Kareem Parker at number 2, D'Amico Brewer at number 3, Rashad Boston at number 4, and Levi Dixon at number 5. Now, for me, TJ Weston wasn't even going to be number 6. If I had a 6th vote, my 6th vote was going to go to Noah Walker at Clemson. And my 7th vote probably would have gone to Kazim Cash. And then maybe TJ Weston would have gotten 8. However, there just goes to show how much disparity there can be amongst coaches. There were a couple coaches that had TJ Weston as the number 3 overall running back. And so, as a matter of fact, there were 2 coaches that had 2 coaches had TJ Weston as the number 3 running back. He received 3 points for that, and that is his 6 points. So just to give you an idea, 2 coaches had TJ Weston as the number 3 overall running back, and the other 4 coaches didn't even have him in the top 5. So again, it just goes to show why the coaches poll and why these rankings are so interesting and so unique, because you get such a different perspective. You've got 4 coaches that didn't even vote for TJ Weston to be on the list, but 2 coaches did. And he gets on the list because they voted him as the number 3 overall. He gets 3 points, and Bob's your uncle. All right. So top 5 running backs one last time before we move on. Darnell Hodge, congratulations. Number 1 running back. Kareem Parker at 2. Levi Dixon 3. D'Amico Brewer 4. TJ Weston at Tennessee, number 5. We're going to go to the quarterback position, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here so you guys have a little bit of time to get prepared for the action this afternoon. So here we go. The top 5 RFL draft prospects at the quarterback position. I will tell you, this was interesting because I'll just show it. And here we go. So the top 5 quarterback prospects heading into the RFL draft as of right now. Miles McCain at TCU comes in at number 1 with 24 points, ahead of Calvin Poole at USC, defending Heisman Trophy winner, with 23 points. Now, what is interesting about this, and this is why the coaches poll is so unique, Miles McCain did not receive a single vote as the number 1 quarterback. Let me say that one more time so that it sinks in and you guys understand what I'm saying versus what you're looking at. None of the coaches that participated voted Miles McCain as the number 1 quarterback. Not a single one. However, he received the most number of points, so he gets the number 1 spot. Calvin Poole, on the other hand, if I pull it up, Calvin Poole received 4. Yeah, 7 total coaches. Calvin Poole received 4 first place votes. 4 coaches voted for Calvin Poole as the number 1 quarterback prospect. No coaches, 0 coaches voted for Miles McCain as the number 1 quarterback prospect. But yet, Miles McCain tops the list of quarterback prospects heading into the RFL draft. Does anyone want to question? Does anyone have anything that they want to say about that whole situation? Because when I was doing this, it was a little bit odd. It was a little bit mind-blowing. So basically what this says is that so many coaches have Miles McCain somewhere around the 2 or the 3 mark. No one thinks Miles McCain is the number 1 quarterback in the league. But a lot of people think he's 2 or 3 or 4. And a lot of people think Calvin Poole is the number 1 quarterback in the league. But there's 1 or 2 people that think he's 4 or 5 or maybe not even top 5. Go down the rest of the list real quick. Tajay Gaddy at West Virginia, number 3. Very, very close. Only 2 points behind Calvin Poole in the number 2 spot. And then Monty Wyatt at Ohio State and Javier Santana at Washington. Quite a bit of a drop off there when you get outside the top 3. What do we got here in the chat? What did Ronnie Shanahan say? Miles McCain probably hit that 2nd place on all 8 coaches, so he would get more points. Well, there wasn't 8 total coaches. There There was only 7 that participated, but yeah, 24 points. There's some coaches that would have had him at 3 or 4, but yeah. I mean, I can even probably take a quick peek and see second place votes for Miles McCain. So he had 4. So Calvin Poole got 4 votes as the number 1 overall quarterback. Miles McCain got 4 votes as the number 2 overall quarterback. But then Miles McCain also got votes as the 3 and the 4. So nobody thinks Miles McCain is the number 1 quarterback. And a lot of people think he's somewhere between 2 or 4. A lot of people think that Calvin Poole is the number 1 quarterback, but someone or multiple ones feel that he's not in the top 3 and thus hurt the overall point total, giving Miles McCain the number 1 spot. So yes, Ronnie Shanahan, your logic and how you got there is correct. If I didn't properly explain that earlier, but yes, roast Tyon real quick. Oh, with pleasure, guys. Anytime you want me to roast someone, just all you have to do is ask. I need to know what he said though first. I can see the comment here, done roast Tyon real quick from McCall from Samurai Nation, but I don't know what he said. So if I can find what he said, let me scroll up here. Where is Tyon? How do I not see him in any of these comments? Does he like delete his comment here? Guys, if you find it, let me know. I'm all for roasting someone right before the end of the show. Is that Big Bank Games? Is that Tyon? Oh, he is. Oh, all right. So what did he say? Is he bummed because he didn't make the list? Is that what I'm supposed to do? I'm just supposed to roast him because he didn't make the list? Where is he? I'm going to find it. Oh, here we go. Big Bank Games, Tyon. Number 5 is me. Oh, weird, because I swear Javier Santana was number 5. Again, another instance where somebody isn't paying attention or simply doesn't know how to read. Number 5 is me, Tyon. Huh. Well, unless you transferred to Washington and you changed your name to Javier Santana, you're barking up the wrong tree. Maybe you should be a little bit more consistent and stop having a really good game and then a fart burger the next week out there. And you might find yourself in this top 5 list. Or maybe you came in at number 6 and you're crying about being number 6 instead of number 5. I don't hear Monty Wyatt crying about being number 4 instead of number 3. I don't see Tajay Gaddy crying about being number 3 instead of number 2. But yet you find yourself needing to cry about being not on the list. You didn't bother to ask where you were on the list. You didn't bother to ask how many points you got. You just simply started complaining for the sake of complaining. And so now I'm curious. Tyon, 0 first place votes. Tyon, 0 second place votes. Tyon, 0 third place votes. Tyon, 0 fourth place votes. Tyon. You guys want to take this one? 0 fifth place votes. So I don't know, my guy. There's a group of RFL coaches who are responsible for your future who don't think that you're a top 5 quarterback right now. Be better. Go take a shower, wash yourself off, and be better. As long as you give me credit, Mitch, that's fine. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a turnover. I don't know. No, because we got snatchies. Maybe a fumble. No, I think you say cookies for the fumble. I don't know what we can use fart burger for, but yeah, absolutely. Or better yet, every time Tyon gets sacked, every time Tyon fumbles the ball, every time Tyon throws an interception, just call it a fart burger. Oh, now this hurts. This hurts. This one really, this is a low blow. This one strikes me deep that you're not paying attention. It's a shocking development. You're not paying attention. You thought you were number 5 on the list when I showed you the list and you weren't on it. We all know you weren't paying attention. Fart burger. All right, guys. Any other questions here? Miles McCain in at number 1. Again, controversy swirling because none of the coaches thought that he was the number 1 quarterback. However, he lands in at the number 1 spot based on points alone. Calvin Poole in at number 2. This is great. Tyon, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but you brought this on yourself. Calvin Poole in at number 2 with 23 points. Only 1 point separating Calvin Poole. I think what's really interesting here is that there are 3 quarterbacks right here, all separated by 3 points. And so what this means is that come draft day, anyone's guess, I mean, anything goes here. Like Miles McCain, Calvin Poole, Tajay Gaddy, there's still time. We've only seen a little bit of Javier Santana. All these quarterbacks have been in the league, with the exception of Javier Santana. The top 4 quarterbacks here on this list are all in their second year. So there's something to be said about those guys, and we have more tape on them. We've been able to watch them for a full season already. Javier Santana, basically what this list is telling you, for those of you that couldn't figure it out already, and Tyon clearly couldn't, what this list is telling you is that the best quarterback in the college series that is in his first year, the best new quarterback in the college series is Javier Santana at Washington. Because all these other quarterbacks were in CS3. Javier Santana, according to the coaches, as of right now, is the best quarterback, is the best freshman quarterback, if you want. He's the best new quarterback prospect in the college series. Now, again, Tyon didn't receive any top 5 votes. That's fine. Ronnie Shanahan, not on the list. I also don't see Ronnie Shanahan in here complaining about not being on the list. I will tell you that Ronnie Shanahan got some votes. As a matter of fact, Ronnie Shanahan, if you're wondering, Ronnie Shanahan received 7 points. He got 7 total points and just missed. I think Ronnie Shanahan probably would have been number 6 on this list. And what I will also tell you, again, I don't know whose rankings are what, but what I will tell you is that Ronnie Shanahan received a first place vote. Only 4 weeks so far in the season. And ahead of Calvin Poole, ahead of Miles McCain, ahead of Tajay Gaddy, Monty Wyatt. There are people out there that feel that Ronnie Shanahan is the best quarterback in the country. So that's why these rankings are so different. They're so unique. Congratulations to Miles McCain. I don't really know who to congratulate here. I feel like congratulating Miles McCain is like I feel like we should be congratulating Calvin Poole here because he got the majority of first place votes. Someone didn't have him in the top 5. And what you can say to that, guys, is that, maybe that particular coach doesn't like generics. Calvin Poole is a generic. He's not a user submitted player. So maybe whoever that coach was just doesn't like generics, which I get. Some people feel very strongly about, wanting all user submitted players because the user submitted players can build up their players. The problem is that a lot of generics come in with better overalls than a lot of the user submitted players. And as coaches, we still have the ability to Patreon boost those generics. So I used to be a big believer in user submitted players, but I have turned the corner a little bit, and I am more about whoever the best player is. I don't necessarily care if they're an elite player and they're a user submit and they're very active and there's an elite generic. Well, then, okay, I'll lean towards the user submitted player. But for me, all 5 of these quarterbacks are really good. Miles McCain, I saw someone mention it a little bit earlier in chat. Looking at this, you can say that Miles McCain is the most improved. Yeah, that's an accurate assessment. Last year, we probably at the beginning of the year or the end of last season, we probably were talking about Miles McCain as QB4, maybe QB5. Maybe some people would have had him at QB3. No one had him at QB1 or QB2, but still no one has him at QB1. Let's also keep that in mind. No one has him as QB1. The consensus out there on Miles McCain right now is still that he's at best, he's the second best quarterback. And at worst, he's the 5th or 6th best quarterback. But no one has him as the best quarterback. Yes, he's number 1 on the list. What do you mean, Dunn? How can you say no one has him as the number 1? You have him as the number 1. He's right there on your list. This is your list. You did this. It's the coaches, guys. So congratulations to Miles McCain. I feel bad for Calvin Poole here coming in at number 2 simply because, I mean, the majority of the people feel like Calvin Poole is the best quarterback in the country. If I had to bet money right now, you want a done deal? We'll do done deal prop bets. You want to do done deal prop bets? Calvin Poole will be the first quarterback taken in the draft. Miles McCain may have more votes right here, but Calvin Poole will be the first quarterback taken in the draft. And if Tajay Gaddy keeps performing the way he's performing, Tajay Gaddy might be the second quarterback taken in the draft. And Javier Santana, Ronnie Shanahan could move up the list. Tyon could move up the list. Not with that attitude, but he could move up the list. Saw someone earlier say something about Tyon that he's going to become this year's McCall and his draft stock is going to plummet. Tyon, for you that may not be aware or know what that comment meant or what the situation is there. A couple years back, we had a quarterback in the college series who was, by all accounts, the second best quarterback in the country. At worst, I think he was the third best quarterback in the country. And he had some off the field issues, I guess, if you will. And his draft stock plummeted. And he had to build that back up. He's in the chat right now. I had him on the show a couple weeks ago. He's in the chat right now. And anyone who says that Jacob McCall has not changed for the better, I think is kidding themselves. Right? I think Jacob McCall has done a lot to improve his standing in the RFL. While his draft stock plummeted and he got drafted later than he should have because of that, he was talented enough to be drafted significantly higher than he was. But he's turned that around. And I think everyone who has been a part of the league dating back to when McCall was in the college series, so we're talking college series 2? Anyone who was a part of the league dating back to that would agree with that statement. Right? And here we go. Awesome Crocodile Productions. Yeah, McCall has definitely improved. Huge shout out to him, by the way. What do we got here? Here we go. Here's Tyon. I'm just competitive. I hate the sight of someone being ranked better than me. I get it, man. I get it. And hopefully this it adds fuel to a fire. Fuel to a little bit of fire. All right, guys, I'm going to get you out of here in a minute. We're running up on 2 hours, getting you right up to kickoff, so much longer. But I know this was important to do, an important episode. I apologize for not doing it at its regularly scheduled time of 7 p.m. on Wednesday nights. For those of you that are tuning in now that don't normally get the opportunity to tune in, Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the RFL YouTube network, right? The RFL television network. Be sure to follow at Miners RFL on Twitter, at Miners RFL on Instagram. And if you have not already, smash that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Special shout out to DJ Evans. I'm not sure if I've seen him in the chat today, but DJ Evans was the winner of the t-shirt giveaway. So I have not received the shirt yet. Just a heads up, DJ, if you are listening out there. But as soon as I do, I will let you know, and I will get that in the mail and out to you as quickly as possible. Last chance effort scouring the comments here. If anybody has anything quick to say, questions on the coaches poll, questions on the top 5, anything good there. I see a lot of people talking about McCall. Really, really proud of him and everything he's done. Again, I had him on the show a couple weeks ago. Congrats to the formula, DJ Evans. Did I know that? Did I not know that nickname? Is that a thing? The formula? I like it. I dig it. I don't know if that's a thing, if you just made that up, or if that's just something that I've been missing out on. But the formula is good. Look at your boy. Who you picking at QB? It's supposed to be anonymous, Moolah. I'm not telling you. I've already told you. I've already hinted at quarterback. I told you when I'm not taking a quarterback, I guess is the better way of putting it. There's just too many good quarterbacks. Like, and spoiler, here's what I will tell you guys. I'm not even 100% sold that I'm going to take a quarterback. You can go and look at my roster, and you can look at the recent transaction, the transaction history, and you can see that I just traded Chum Lee to the Austin Armadillos. And you can say, well, what do you mean, Don? How the heck you have to draft a quarterback? How can you not draft a quarterback? You just traded your starting quarterback. You have to draft a quarterback. I'm not 100% sold that I'm going to take a quarterback. Maybe I do. Maybe I take Tyon. Tyon falls to me in the 4th round. Maybe I take Tyon. Maybe he balls out towards the second half of the season. I'm genuinely not 100% sold on taking a quarterback in the draft. Now, that being said, I do have a lot of picks. I think I have like 12. No, I think I have like 10 draft picks in the 7 rounds. So there is a really good chance that I take a quarterback just because I have so many draft picks. But I do like the only quarterback that I have on my roster right now, I do like. I traded for him last year because last year I had started kicking the tires on the future of the Miners and whether or not Chumley was going to be a part of it. Yes, we've won the division 2 years in a row, but I just felt like Chumley was not the game changer. Chumley was not the DJ. He wasn't the guy that was going to lead me to the Relo Bowl. Chumley is good enough to win the division. He's good enough to make the playoffs. He's good enough to get a first round bye. But he just wasn't good enough to get through the playoffs and win on the road in the playoffs, win against really good teams on the road in the playoffs. If y'all want to make sure you get your QB, you better come get that 4th overall pick. Ooh. If you want to make sure you get your quarterback, you better come get that 4th overall pick. Look at us with dropping some draft nuggets here. Is a quarterback potentially going 4th overall? Could be. Could be. What do we got here? Anything else? Anything else? Done taking a Tomo. Hey, man, as long as they get rid of the read option, as long as they don't try running the read option, Atomo looked pretty good in that game against Clemson. So done to say that. I don't know what I said. Take Tajee. Look at the West Virginia love. You want me to come take Tajee? I think everybody wants me to. I think everyone's looked at the RFL rosters, and I don't think there's a lot of teams that's part of the reason too, guys. Like I'm not 100% sold on taking a quarterback because there's like, I don't think there's any team in the league that is like, oh my God, I have to draft a starting quarterback, with the exception of possibly me. I don't think there's many teams that need that. Any other team that drafts a quarterback is drafting a quarterback that probably isn't going to play for at least 1 year. Whatever team might take a quarterback, that quarterback is not starting day one. That quarterback is sitting the bench for at least 1 full season. And maybe 2, maybe 3. So for me, I'm just not going to, I'll let everyone else pick. You guys want to take quarterbacks in the first round? Go ahead. But with my first round pick, I'm taking guys that I know for a fact are going to play right away. And for other teams' perspective, I don't think anyone has that. Why would you, if there are teams out there that have a first round pick, why would you use that first round pick on a quarterback if you didn't think that he was going to play right away? If I take a quarterback in the first round, that guy will play right away. But again, I'm not 100% sold. If I take a quarterback in the second round or I take a quarterback in the third round, I'm not convinced that he's the starter right away. But what I will tell you right now is if I do end up taking a quarterback in the first round, I'm doing it because I feel like he's a starter right away. Second round quarterback, third round quarterback, fourth round quarterback. I'm not sold. Not sold at all. Here we go. In RFL news, the 4th round pick is on the trade block, according to Coach Baker. Baker, call me. I've got picks. Call me. I promise you with the 4th overall pick, I wouldn't take a quarterback, but I've got some capital. Send me a message. If that 4th round pick, 4th round. I thought he said 4th overall. Did he say 4th round or 4th overall? I may have misspoke. I thought he said 4th overall, but you're saying, yeah, he did say 4th overall. It's not the 4th round pick that's on the trade block, according to Baker. It's the 4th overall pick that's on the trade block, according to Baker. I didn't know Baker had the 4th overall pick. Got to get an updated draft order. But Baker, yeah, hit me up if you want to sell off that 4th overall pick. I'll talk. I don't know what we can do. But I know I've got some first round capital and I've got a bunch of draft capital. So hit me up. Appreciate it, guys. We're going to go ahead and get you out of here. We got about 1 minute. We're down to about 1 minute. So I am taking you all the way up to kickoff today for the Saturday afternoon games. Again, be sure to follow at Miners RFL on Twitter, at Miners RFL on Instagram, and subscribe to that YouTube channel if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, hopefully we'll be back on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the normally scheduled Miners Live. Until next time, I am your host, Chris Dunn, head coach and general manager of the Sacramento Miners. Enjoy the games this afternoon, everyone. And I will see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern for Miners Live. Enjoy the football this afternoon. Take care, everybody.